Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. This is your Manchester United versus Aston Villa preview and latest Manchester United news. Some interesting news about Jack Grealish to Manchester United, and this will be a very interesting... It's a great game anyway. Manchester United versus Villa. The impact this is going to have on the rest of our season, how we need to keep winning, but also Jack Grealish plays for Aston Villa. I'm sure many of you know that. It's not going to be breaking news, but what we know about Jack Grealish and what's happening with Jack Grealish to Manchester United will be breaking news. But first of all, let's start off with Manchester United visit to Aston Villa, Thursday night football, 8 o'clock or 8:15, whatever. It's Thursday night football. It's Manchester United versus Aston Villa. What to expect? How does this rank in relation to the recent games we've had? Obviously beating Bournemouth at the weekend. And I think Aston Villa will represent more problems than Bournemouth did, because the one thing I would say about Aston Villa is they are defensively quite well organised. Now, whether that's because of John Terry or good management or whatever, Aston Villa have had a very weird season. They're a team that I thought might have stayed up. They actually spent quite a bit of money, but so did Fulham the year before, and they went straight back down. And I think Villa have suffered from the same problem. Aston Villa's biggest problem is that they don't score enough goals. And to win games, they need a clean sheet and to nick a goal. The best Villa tend to be getting out of games at the moment is a 1-1 or a 0-0 or something like that. So Aston Villa are set up quite well, but Manchester United, I think we will have enough to beat them, even though, look, with the away team, I think we'll play very much like the home team. And obviously it's easier to play like the home team when you are playing at places like Villa Park and Brighton, because they don't have a crowd to intimidate or boost the opposition. Villa probably going to go down, and this should be a straightforward 3 points for Manchester United. But I say should, I don't think it necessarily will be. I think Villa will set themselves up very defensively like they can do, and they will look to get things from set pieces in and around the box to hurt Manchester United. I don't think they can hurt us on the break. I don't think they've got the pace to do that. I don't think they're going to... I personally think this is a clean sheet for Manchester United written all over it, unless we make the mistakes that we have done recently. Concentration in the defence will keep a clean sheet, and you've got to fancy Manchester United to score goals. The same thing is going to be very important in this game. If you look at the team on the left, Lindelof has been training, so there's no need to change the Lindelof and Maguire axes at the back. The fullbacks are the strength of Manchester United. I still don't necessarily think all our fans understand the importance of Wan-Bissaka and Luke Shaw, both in the top four since lockdown, since we've come back from lockdown in relation to distance covered. There is no reason why your fullbacks should be in the top four over any other player. Midfielders could be in there, centre-backs could be in there, but they are going so high up the pitch. I've said this so many times and I'll say it again. Luke Shaw and Wan-Bissaka will play a key part in Man United winning this game again, because they will get forward and they will basically be on the corners of each penalty box on each side, which will allow Rashford and Greenwood to make their moves. It will create space for Bruno and Martial and Pogba. What t-shirt will I wear tomorrow night in relation to scorers? I don't think I'll wear Martial, because I think Martial's job will be to occupy the centre-backs of Villa, which will probably be House and Mings, and I think the space will be created by other people. But I expect to see a very similar Manchester United performance to what we saw against Sheffield United, what we saw against Brighton, where we have a lot of the ball, we create a lot of space, and we create a lot of chances by actually getting a lot of our players in almost like a semicircle from the left all the way around the right of their penalty box. Luke Shaw, Wan-Bissaka bombing on, Greenwood and Rashford interchanging, Martial occupying the centre-backs, and Bruno and Pogba probing, with Matic backing them all up, and Lindelof and Maguire just there to bring the ball out, but also to cover on the break. So I think Manchester United will have this game. I'm not going to say we're going to beat them 4-0, but I think we could beat them 4-0, but I do think that we will win it to 0, and I'm going to say probably a conservative 2. Goal difference is going to be important to Manchester United, but like I say, Villa to me are not a team that gets smashed 4 or 5-0. I think defensively they are quite well organised. They just don't have any relief. They tend to spend a lot of their time defending, and they don't really have anything on the break. They don't really have a lot of pace on the break. They don't really have a lot of threat on the break. Which brings us on to Jack Grealish. It will be a Jack Grealish watch, but we don't want Jack Grealish to do a hell of a lot in this game. If you look at Jack Grealish, look, Souness says Grealish to United's not a good deal, or he doesn't like the player. You can't argue with that. You can't argue with that. He's played about 35 games this season. He's got 9 goals. He's got 6 assists, and his pass percentage is 85, and he's having 2 shots per game. In a side that's going to get relegated, in a side where he's head and shoulders the best player, in a side where he gets kicked and marked out of games a lot, He is the focal point of that team. I think Man United won't deal with Grealish in the way that some teams do. I don't think we're going to target Grealish. I don't think we're going to man-mark Grealish. So I think he will get opportunities to impress. And I hope he does impress. But I hope he impresses in a way that we still win the game comfortably. But I am interested in Grealish. I think this is the Grealish game. And I think focusing on Grealish, we may have done anyway, but focusing on Grealish as a player that Manchester United are definitely interested in, and Manchester United definitely might buy in the summer, let's see what he's going to do in this game in what is going to be an audition against players that he may be wanting to dislodge in the coming weeks and months. But what I just want to say is, obviously, we will bring Lindelof into the team. But I did read an article, I think it was Manchester Evening News or maybe it was the Mail or something, and they were saying, I don't think they were saying this, but the headline sort of draws you in that Fred deserves better, Fred deserves to start. Fred does not deserve to start. This sympathy is ill-placed in a side that wants to win titles and become great. Fred does not deserve to start for Manchester United. Let me just go back here. Fred does not deserve to be in that team. Neither does McTominay, neither does Brandon Williams, and neither does Ighalo. All players that we can trust, all players that I more than trust if we've got injuries or somebody loses form, but nobody deserves to be in that team other than the players that are in it. This is how you become great. Fred does not deserve to start. Fred is somewhat unfortunate because he's played well this season, but he doesn't deserve to start. There's no place for fair play in a selection of your best 11. Manchester United must go best 11 for many reasons. One, you don't want complacency. You want to go with your best 11 in every game because football's weird. Greece won the Euros. Denmark won the Euros. Leicester won the league. Anything can happen. Southampton beat Man City the other night. You can lose games that you're expected to win. So don't be complacent. Keep your foot on the pedal and go with your strongest team. And on top of that, our strongest team is more likely to win 4-0 than making a couple of changes. And goal difference could be key. So you go with your strongest team. We've got a manager who was elite as a striker but didn't start all the time. He was more of a bench player if you think about Solskjaer. Was that fair? Yes, because there were better players than him to start the games. Could Solskjaer have gone to Everton and been one of their all-time goal scorers? Yes, he could. Could Fred go to Everton and be one of their best midfielders? Yes, he could. I want him to stay at United. I want him to be part of this squad. I want us to build greatness. Fred does not go into that team. Anybody saying Fred deserves to start, you're not looking at the bigger picture. He doesn't deserve to start because there's better players. This is how you build a squad. This is what Manchester United are all about. And this is why this guy, Jack Grealish, is very important if you want to progress to the next level. Does Grealish walk into that 11 I just had? Probably not. Probably not. But he certainly competes with that 11, and that's what you want. You want your Freds, your McTominays, your Williams, your Ighalos to be knocking on that door for an opportunity. And I think Grealish could knock that door down. You need depth, and I think it's very exciting to see what Grealish can do on Thursday, but also whether United will go for it, because I think it sends a big statement if we do. Sancho's the priority, but Jack Grealish would be a very good player to bring in to provide some real depth of quality in the attacking positions, and I think that's going to be very interesting. Now, there was some talk that Jack Grealish talks with Manchester United had taken place. His agent is Jonathan Bartlett, also the agent for Gareth Bale. He's come out and said Jack Grealish's priority is Aston Villa. He's the Aston Villa captain and keeping Aston Villa in the Premier League. Everything else can wait until that has been decided. So talk that Jack Grealish has agreed terms with Manchester United, that Manchester United have agreed terms with Grealish or Aston Villa. Absolutely not. And this is nice and a good story. And I don't normally back what agents say, but I think it's a really good soundbite at a really good time. He's focused on Villa. We're focused on top four. Let's wait and see when the season ends at the end of July what happens with that. And it's the same with Dortmund and it's the same with Sancho. Look, we're in for these players. We are. Whether we buy them or not, you can decide for yourself whether you think it's going to happen. But we must focus on what's important. And what's important for us is winning this game and getting into the top four. And what's important for Grealish is that he keeps impressing and he keeps improving on those stats, because that and they are the things that will allow Manchester United to make a very good decision on whether they want him or not. So, look, I'm excited to see Grealish. I think it is going to be a very exciting game in the sense that I think every game for Manchester United is a cup final, whether it's Villa on Thursday or Southampton on Monday, or is it Palace or West Ham the Thursday after. These are all cup final games for Manchester United. And I think what sharpens the mind is, look, whatever Leicester and Chelsea do, our chance will come. They won't win all their games. Leicester can't win all their games if we beat them, because we've beaten them. So our chance will come, whether it's them dropping points tonight or whether it's them dropping points at the weekend or whenever. They will drop points. What we've got to make sure is that we don't drop points. And that's still a very, very, very hard task that I think we will achieve, but we must not underestimate and take for granted. You can't just keep saying, well, we'll beat Villa, we'll beat Southampton, we'll beat Palace, we'll beat West Ham. In one of those games, we will face a task. We will face a challenge. A bigger challenge than being 1-0 down to Bournemouth, who aren't that good with 70 minutes to go at Old Trafford. That was a challenge, but it was one that was always achievable. What about when you can't score and then they get one on the break and there's only half an hour to go? There will be challenges. And as I said, Southampton against Man City should sharpen the mind. Man City should not be losing to Southampton, and they did. We've got to play Southampton. Villa fighting for their lives. They're not on the beach. They're not playing well. They're not winning games, but I'll tell you this, if you are complacent in a game like this, you will not get the 3 points. These people are playing for their livelihoods. If they go down, there will be wage drops. They may end up losing their career. They may end up, never getting back in the Premier League. It's amazing what motivation can do to a player when you are the underdog. So Manchester United have got to be very wary of that. It's the last game we've got against the potential side that will be fighting for their lives. Southampton, West Ham, Palace, they're not fighting for their lives. They'll have a go, but will they have the determination? Villa is a banana skin, is what I'm saying. I think we'll win it, but we've got to be very, very, very careful, very, very focused, go with your strongest team, get the game done. And look, if we beat Villa 4-0, 5-0, great. If we beat them 2-0, get the 3 points. That's what it's all about. So I think focus of the minds is very, very, very important. And we cannot allow complacency of fairness. Oh, you know what? I'd give Bruno a rest for this game and I'd start Fred. I'll play Williams at left back and give Martial a rest up front. No, 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 no. We've had a 5-day rest from a good result against Bournemouth. You go with your strongest team and you keep going with it. And I think Solskjaer will. I think in some ways, Ollie's inexperience and need to impress will help us. He will select his strongest 11 again. And he will go for wins because he knows that one slip could be so costly. And let me just say that for a moment. Imagine if we drew against Villa. We're 1-0 up, we can't score a second one, and they get a late dodgy goal, it's 1-1. All the good run, we'd still be unbeaten for 15 games. We'd still probably win our next 3, and we've won all those. It'd still be a great run, but that one slip could cost us top 4. And all the great work that's been done, and it still would be great work would blow the confidence, and the fans would be disappointed. But the reason we cannot slip at the moment is not because this team's playing well. It's because of the mistakes of the first 6 months. We drew with Villa at Old Trafford. Let's not forget, this is another game where we dropped points. So massively important that we win it. Anyway, let's talk about some of the latest news as well. Obviously, we've got the update on the Jack Grealish transfer there. A little bit on, and I just want to say as well, free kicks. I saw somebody on social media saying United are blessed with people who can take free kicks. Greenwood, Pogba, Rashford, Bruno. Martial could even take one. I don't actually like that. I did want to put it in for people to have their say, but I don't actually like that. I don't know what you think. I just want Bruno to take the free kicks and the corners and the penalties. That's what I want. Because as a footballer myself, whether you played FIFA or whether you've played football real life, it's like golf. It's like anything. It's like batting. When you go in front of the wicket at cricket and you're getting those balls, the first 3 or 4 balls, you're just getting your eye in. You're getting your swing in. You don't necessarily go and hit it your best you can the first one in case you've got your eye out and it clips off the top of your bat and gets caught and you're out. You're getting your eye in. And free kicks, corners, they're exactly that. You might need 1 or 2 free kicks to get your eye in. But if you're having 1 free kick and then it's Rashford, then it's Greenwood, then it's Pogba, who's getting their eye in? We're being fair. We're sharing. It goes back to the Fred thing again. Is Fred a bit unlucky? Yes. Is it fair that he's not starting? Yes, it is fair because there's other better players than him. And I think that fairness needs to go. We've got a penalty taker, we've got a free kick taker, and they take them unless it doesn't suit their angle, in which case you might let somebody else have a go. If it's a bit too to the right, it doesn't suit Bruno, maybe let a left footer like Greenwood have a go. But I would just go with Bruno on free kicks, corners and penalties, and then you've got your specialist. I know it's great that we've got people who can take them, but I don't think it's helpful to have loads of people who can take them. I think you want specialism and you want to go with your best. That's just my 2 pennies worth on that. But yeah, Nathan Ake. I saw a story today about Nathan Ake. So let's go through some of the topical stuff as well. Please smash a like on the video if you're watching and subscribe if you're new. Get your score predictions in the comments and your thoughts on anything that I've said about, how you think this game would go. Would you make any changes? We have got Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's press conference reaction coming up in the morning, of course. But let me just say this about some of the topical stuff then. Aki, £40 million, I read today. Now, look, it's a paper story, so you can take it with, you can wipe your backside with it if you want to, and I think maybe you should do with that. £40 million for Nathan Aki. In this market, when he's going to get relegated from Bournemouth, get away. No chance is that going to happen. When I've spoken about Aki, and I'm sure when some of you've spoken about Aki, the point is that you would not pay any more than about 15-20 million. He's getting relegated. He's probably got it in his contract that he's allowed to go if he gets relegated. You don't pay any more than 20 million for that player. I just want to say that out now. Look, if you are considering Aki and you would pay 40 million, I'd have to disagree. If you are looking at Nathan Aki, and I'm not saying we should go for him, but if we are looking at him, one of the reasons I was like, maybe this wouldn't be a bad deal to do is because I would expect you wouldn't pay any more than 20 million quid for him, which I think would maybe be worth a punt on a player like that. 25, Premier League proven, quick, has the potential to do better at a bigger club. There's an element of risk there, but for 20 million I would do it. Not for 40 million as far as I'm concerned. I liked this story about just going back to Grealish actually, just for a moment. There was Darren Bent, who's been on the show and done some stuff with Flex before. He was on TalkSport saying that about Grealish to United, he just doesn't get into that team. I agree with that, but I don't think that's a reason not to buy him, by the way. This is exactly... I'm not criticising what Darren Bent said there. I think he's right, but I think that's also the reason we want him. Why would Grealish go to United? He doesn't get into that team. I think that sort of thinking in our fan base, and I'm not talking about Darren Bent for the moment, that sort of thinking in our fan base can be quite obstructive. I've seen it before. Why would we buy a striker? What about Greenwood's development? What about Martial? And I'm like, look, there's a mindset here. There's a mindset problem here. Stop thinking about your first 11, because first 11s don't win you Premier League titles. They have a percentage part in that, but your wider squad plays a big part as well. If you think about Liverpool, with people like Origi who've chipped in, when Alisson was injured, the other guy that came in goal, they've had injury. Players come into that team, and you don't want to drop off, and that's why. Look, does Grealish get in that team at the moment? No. Where would you play Jack Grealish in that team at the moment? Does he knock on the door and maybe force his way into that team when his chance comes? Yes. Is he a great option off the bench? Yes. Could one of those players get injured and Grealish plays 40 games as a first teamer? Yes. It's about the squad, and it's about having players knocking on that door ready to come into that team. That's what we need. I don't want to have the conversation of, it's not fair on Fred, it's not fair on McTominay, they should move. No. I've seen people like Phil Neville, Nicky Butt, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Teddy Sheringham. The list goes on. John O'Shea, Wes Brown, on and on. Louis Saha, on and on over the years. All these players that over the years maybe aren't first teamers when everyone's fit, but play massive amounts of games for us and contribute to the consistency of performing and winning titles. So look, yeah, Darren Bent's right. Jack Grealish doesn't get into that team, but massive. These are the sort of players we need to improve our squad. Otherwise, you're bringing Pereira on or Mata on, and do you trust them to play 10 games for you and keep the momentum going? I don't. I really, really don't. I know what a show it was at lunchtime, Flex and KG. If you've not watched it, do give it a watch. A really good show. And I know they spoke about Pogba wanting Sancho at Manchester United. Interesting story this. Look, David Ornstein's a very, very good journalist. I'd put him in there in my sort of top 5 actually, and I should do a video one day on like who are my top 5 journalists that I when they say something I really listen, because I think that those things are quite useful. But David Ornstein coming out and saying that Paul Pogba has expressed privately his excitement at playing with Jadon Sancho at Manchester United. I mean, this is a really interesting story to come from somebody who is very credible, because it's the sort of story that maybe belongs on the back of a lesser journalist's article. So to come from David Ornstein, it's really, really exciting, because it encompasses so much. Like, one, Jadon Sancho coming to United, which we're all excited about and hopefully it will happen. But 2, Paul Pogba being at Manchester United next season, and we know that, but being excited about next season and this team getting better and better. And then 3, the potential of Paul Pogba signing a new contract. So look, I like this story. It's a story that excites me on many levels. And also it's a story that has credibility to it. So I like it. I mean, it's such a throwaway thing, really. Like I say, Pogba's excited about Sancho coming. The negative people would go, Pogba's going to leave in the future. We haven't even bought Sancho. What a load of crap. But where it's coming from, I think it's a real positive story. And look, you know what? Pogba can be as excited as he wants. That's great. But how excited are you that you could have this? Matic, Pogba, Bruno, Sancho, Martial, Rashford. And, oh, hold on a minute, I've left Greenwood out. Oh, hold on a minute, Grealish is on the bench. Oh, hold on a minute, so's Fred and McTominay. Oh, so's Agarlo. So's Brandon Williams. You know, it's very... You've got a bench then. You've got a bench then. And that's what United need. And we're probably only 2-3 players away. If I was... Look, Matic for the moment's fine. So the CDM is something we need to look at. But for the moment, he is performing as one of the best CDMs in Europe. So the only positions for me is Sancho, Grealish, or a Grealish type. And probably a pacey centre-back. And then you go, well, where do you need to improve? De Gea, you know, you've got Henderson, Romero, Wan-Bissaka, all right. If he gets injured, we're probably in trouble. Centre-backs, okay, we do need a pacey centre-back. Left-back, very happy with Brandon Williams and Luke Shaw. Midfield, Matic, Fred, McTominay, Bruno, Pogba, a Grealish or a Van der Beek. Up front, Martial, Agarlo, Rashford, Dan James, Greenwood, Sancho. I mean, there's not much more you need to do that other than get consistent, baby. So, yeah, I'm excited by it. And I'm glad that Paul Pogba is. I really do. Just talking about Sancho for a moment, though. Adama Traore as an alternative for Sancho was on the Transfer podcast. I saw that today. I don't think... The thing about this is, I like Adama Traore. I mean, I'm not massive on stats, but some of them are very important. He's brilliant at taking people on. I don't think anybody's put more crosses in than him, and I don't think anyone's got more assists than him as a winger. So that's very encouraging about Adama Traore. But if we don't get Sancho, I think you'd have to pay 50-60 million for Traore. And then I think, well, look, if we can't get Sancho for anything less than 100 million, right? But you've got to pay 60 million for Adama Traore, is it worth saving 40 million? Is it not better to go and just spend that? You'll make that 40 million back in a year. You will. Like, Sancho is going to be massively popular with brands. He's going to be massively great at selling shirts. He's going to be a massive asset to Manchester United off the pitch. But most importantly, he's going to be a massive asset on the pitch. So if you're going to buy Traore for 50-60 million, you really, because you don't want to pay 90 to 100 million for Sancho, realistically, that gap on a business level and on a footballing level, it's stupid. Just going to get Sancho. So look, I'm happy to mention the stories about alternatives, but for me, if you don't get Sancho, why would you go and get an alternative? Like, what? The only way you'd do that is if you lose out on him to Chelsea. And if you lose out on him to Chelsea, why have you lost out on him to Chelsea? So for me, I'm very reluctant. Any alternative to Sancho automatically brings my mood down because I'm like, why are we not going to go and get Jadon Sancho? So that's what I think about that, but I don't know what you all think about it. You've got to have alternatives, I accept that. What if Jadon Sancho gets injured, and he's out for a year? You'd have to have an alternative then, but I think that's the only alternative I would think about. But we'll just have to wait and see. It's exciting times around Manchester United, and I'm very excited about this Villa game, by the way. So I'm going to go with a 2-0 win. A little bit conservative, but I'm going to go 2-0 to Manchester United. Definitely think we'll get a clean sheet if we defend and we don't make mistakes. I think Wan-Bissaka and Luke Shaw are going to have a massive part to play again, as will Pogba and Bruno. I'm out of the front three. Exciting as to who's going to score, because the great thing about United as well, Greenwood look like he'll score. Rashford's back on form. Martial's looking fantastic. Bruno looks like he's going to do something every game. And you know what? Pogba's not scored yet. So I think that there's plenty of goals in this side. And I think we're going to see a very, very deep-lying Aston Villa. And early goal in these sort of games opens it up wide. So if we get an early goal, then maybe we could win 4 or 5-0. But yeah, winning is the main thing. Very, very excited about it. So please smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you are watching this on Tuesday night, check out Mark Goldbridge That's Football, because I am doing a watch along for Arsenal versus Leicester. And if Leicester lose, we're even more looking like top 4. Thanks everyone for watching. Speak to you all soon.